This month of July looks like another month for the records. I know I have been saying that every single month so far this year, but July is no exception. We have some interesting retrograde energy this month with Neptune and Saturn stationing retrograde early on in July, along with Mercury stationing retrograde in Leo towards the middle of the month. However, the most important transit that we have happening this month, and a transit a lot of astrologers have predicted as being somewhat interesting when it comes to the way the collective expands and changes in terms of how we communicate, express ourselves, and also how we perceive and generate media, along with certain conflicts that are happening in the world around us. And that is Uranus moving in to the sign of Gemini. Now, Uranus hasn't been in Gemini since 1941, and it left Gemini in 1949, so it's been a few years since Uranus has been in the sign of Gemini. So we have a bit of history to look back on during that time and what happened while Uranus was in Gemini last, which I'll touch on a little bit later in the video. But it will be an interesting energy as we expand and change and shift how we perceive information, how we generate information, along with looking at how we use and the ethics around artificial intelligence. We also have two lunations this month, a full moon in Capricorn and a new moon in Leo. If you'd like to see where this energy is happening for you based on your rising sign, keep on watching. Hi friends, my name's Alex. I'm an astrologer based in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and if you're new here, I create videos every month looking at the energies of what is happening throughout the cosmos and then how they will be working with your chart based on your rising sign. If you'd like to understand where that energy is happening for you, keep on watching. I will go through that into the mid to later part of the video. If you'd like to follow me over on Instagram, my Instagram is at Venus in Virgo Astrology. I also have a website, www.venusinvirgoastrology.com, where you can book a reading with me if you'd like to see where specifically this energy is happening for you based on your personal chart, which will be a lot more clearer and accurate because we can look at all of your personal placements and how this energy is happening for you. I have a wide variety of readings available, so make sure to pop on over and check them out. I do use New Zealand Standard Time because I am based in New Zealand, so just make sure to adjust this based on where you're located in the world. But if you'd like to see where this energy is happening for you, keep on watching. Kicking off the month, we have Neptune stationing retrograde, and this is happening at 2 degrees and 10 minutes of Aries. Now, this is an outer planet station retrograde, so we might feel it on the day, but this is likely a more subtle energy that we'll start to experience and feel over the next few months. With Neptune stationing retrograde, it will be lifting the veil a little bit. We might start to be able to tap in to our intuition a bit easier, or things might be a bit clearer that were maybe a little bit hazy or a little bit uncertain to us. Neptune will regress back into Pisces, and this will happen over the next few months, where it will move back into Pisces for a little bit and then move back into Aries once it stations direct and moves out of its shadow retrograde period. So with Neptune retrograde, we also might be feeling like we can connect with others or see things a little bit more clearer when it comes to situations maybe to do with ourselves, who we are, and sort of what we're sort of changing and shifting in our lives with this Neptune recently moving into the Aries part of our charts. Maybe we've had a little bit of uncertainty around certain areas, or just a different perspective than we had previously, and maybe we're starting to see through or see the reasons for this new perspective now that Neptune is stationing retrograde. Just note that whatever sort of situations are coming up will likely be quite themes throughout this Neptune retrograde period. Then also on the 5th of July, we have Venus conjoining Uranus in Taurus. Now, as we know, Uranus is about to move out of Taurus, so this is one of the last times potentially that Venus will be conjoining Uranus, especially not in a retrograde sort of period. So it will be the last time for that. With Venus conjoining Uranus, we might be having some radical information or radical downloads that we're sort of having a new perspective, maybe that we've sort of understood and learnt with Uranus being in Taurus for the past few years. We've had a lot of shifts and changes when it comes to do with our values, when it comes to do with how we sort of fuel ourselves, things that we find really nourishing. Our food supply in general has been shifting and changing with Uranus being in Taurus. The finances that we've kind of been looking at, we've had a lot of changes to do with finances in a global scale. We've seen a lot of radical changes when it comes to do with looking at different types of currency, online currency, things like that. We've had a lot of shift and change happening in that area collectively. So with Venus conjoining Uranus, we might see some shifts and changes and a new sort of perspective or a new sudden download or sudden realization when it comes to our own finances, our own values. When it comes to global finances, we might see the stock markets do something interesting. We might see some interesting shifts happen to do with the crypto market. We might just see a bit of a more of a push towards this, especially with Uranus moving into Gemini not long after. Before that, we also do have on the 5th Venus finally moving out of Taurus and into Gemini. So Gemini is going to have a lot of energy this month. So Venus will be moving into Gemini on the 5th of July. With Venus in Gemini, likely connecting with friendships. We're wanting to invest in our mind. Invest in study is a wonderful use of this energy. Invest in sort of lots of different things. What lights you up? Maybe connecting with different relationships or different people from different walks of life that help you see a different perspective, especially with Uranus moving into Gemini not long after. We're maybe more inspired to connect with people in a really different or unique way. We may be looking at different or unique ways we can invest our finances that maybe we hadn't really thought of before, or we're just wanting to just invest in our friendships in our lives and maybe looking at how we communicate. Maybe we're communicating and having conversations that are a bit more harmonious than they were previously. Then on the 7th of July, we have Uranus moving into Gemini. So like I said earlier in the video, Uranus hasn't been in Gemini since 1941 to 1949. Now Uranus will be in Gemini from 2025 to 2033. Uranus will move out of Gemini for a brief moment later this year because it will station retrograde in November, but it will be officially moving back into Gemini for good from April 26th 2026. So this transit that we're currently experiencing at the beginning of this month is likely giving us a bit of a prelude to what it will be like with Uranus in Gemini from 2026 onwards. I feel like we're going to see some really radical things happen, some really radical shifts happen quite quickly, especially when it comes to conflicts. Unfortunately, Uranus in Gemini does indicate a lot of conflict energy. It was very present sort of around World War II. It indicated some really prominent events that happened in World War II. I'm not going to dive deep into that. I'm not a mundane astrologer, so I am going to give a few examples, but that is definitely something that is a great area to explore with more mundane astrologers. But some key things that happened during Uranus's transit in Gemini previously was the United Nations were formed in 1945. The first computer was completed in 1945. CIA was founded in 1947, and the TV became a household item in 1946. So as we can see, a lot of shifts and radical improvements happened within the world to do with groups of people, to do with how we communicate and express ourselves, to do with technology. Technology is going to be a huge thing that we're going to see shift and change over this transit. We have a lot of energy already coming up around the new AI age and the new sort of industrial, like the new revolution. Like we had the industrial revolution, but the new revolution, which is the AI revolution coming through. We have a lot of use of AI in our world already, but I think we're going to see a real push, even more so, to integrate AI within our lives. Now, it's a tricky subject because at the moment there are no current real laws or ethics around using AI. So I think we're going to see a lot of new ethics and laws and using AI in a way that's not going to overtake the need to have the human touch within society, which is so important. We can't take that out of society, but I can see that we're going to have this push to use AI in a way that's going to help grow us. But there's also a dark side to that. There's always two sides to the coin. We're going to see the positive, but there's also a challenging energy around having too much AI. We're already seeing some studies come out about the brain and use of AI and it sort of hindering our critical thinking, which is a lot of what AI is currently used for, which is kind of what we need to move away from as a collective in order to utilize AI properly. We don't want it taking over our critical thinking skills. We want it to help us in other areas that we can automate a bit more to help us learn and grow in different areas that we maybe didn't have time for before because things were not automated. So I see there being a lot more studies and a lot more information available and a lot more sort of training available around using AI in a better way. I mean, we've only recently had use of AI, especially within like ChatGPT and different sort of medias that AI can create, which again is not fully ethical because it is sort of using other people's hard work. We can't take the human out of humanity. We can't replace that with AI. So I think we're going to see a lot of radical ideas happen around ways we can use AI in a more ethical way. Because Uranus is in an air sign, we're going to see a lot of changes within the air space, whether that be when it comes to conflict, a lot of shifts and changes to do with the airspace and how maybe technology is used in a way that could be different than how we've used it before. Communication and intelligence is going to shift and change, especially around the use of artificial intelligence is really going to be a key theme. We're going to see a lot of changes to do with how we communicate with each other, how we communicate and connect with other people. Uranus is about humanity. Gemini is about connection, it's about communication. We're going to see changes in maybe learning from each other. Information is going to be more centralized rather than being decentralized. I think we're going to have a lot more access to learning and growing together. I think we're going to have a lot more changes to do with the education system. I see there being shifts to do with just how communication and how media is sent and received. I think that there's going to be a lot of need for discernment when it comes to perceiving media and understanding that AI is really getting a lot better each day, and it's currently at the worst it will ever be in terms of its quality. So it's important to be discerning and understanding where you're getting your information from. It's going to be very much how we are perceived as a collective, how we perceive things is going to be molded and shifted and changed in a way that maybe we're not expecting, but we're going to see things that maybe we never thought we'd see. So it's important to be discerning into where you're seeing this information and to question things. Use your critical thinking and question things. Not everything is what it is being perceived. It's very easy to manipulate media, especially now that we have such prominent use of AI. But that is my tangent for Uranus and Gemini. So on a personal level, Uranus and Gemini, we might just be more expanded and have new downloads or a fresh perspective into reality, a fresh perspective in how we communicate and express ourselves wherever Uranus is sitting in our chart when it moves into Gemini, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Then on the 11th of July, we have the full moon happening in Capricorn, and that is happening at 18 degrees and 50 minutes of Capricorn, and it is happening at 8:36 a.m. New Zealand Standard Time. So shift that to wherever you're based in the world. At the time of this full moon does look quite nice. We do have a couple of challenging energies, but we have a lot of trine and sextile energy around the time of this full moon. So we obviously have the moon and the sun opposing each other. That's what indicates a full moon. But we do have Jupiter in Cancer, which is going to be a big part of this sort of full moon energy. Obviously Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. We talked about that last month. So there's this positive, lucky energy around the time of this full moon. We do have the sun sextiling the south node and trining the north node around the time of this full moon, and obviously the moon is doing the same. So it's like this positive push in the direction that we're wanting to go in. Maybe we're looking at things with the new perspective that we have with Uranus in Gemini. We're using this information and this new change of energy. It's like a breath of fresh air that is maybe coming through, that's helping us grow and shift and change and go towards our goals in a more positive mindset. Maybe we're letting go and culminating at the end of a sort of situation or event that we're ready to finally let go of and move on from, in order to allow space or create space to move forward on our goals. We have Uranus and Venus in Gemini, which are also forming a trine to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So there's a lot of air energy around the time of this very grounded, practical and emotional full moon. With any sort of Cancerian energy, we're going to be tapping into those emotions. Full moon, our emotions are heightened. The moon is in Capricorn. Moon doesn't like being in Capricorn. The moon rules where the sun is right now. So we're having this very unable to maybe express our emotions in a way that we're sort of having these deep shifts in how we connect with others and how we perceive information, how we perceive the world around us. Maybe we're going through a bit of a positive shift in terms of re-looking at layers that we've been breaking down with Pluto in Aquarius. We may be looking at the things we've been going through with Pluto in Aquarius these last few months and year, with these Pluto transits, that with anything making a positive aspect to Pluto is going to be intense, but it's going to be received in a positive way. With Venus involved, that's even bringing in some more positive energy into the mix. It's a energy that we're maybe not feeling like a more challenging energy, which you feel kind of instantly, but it's more tapping into our power, tapping into that source of creativity, source of inspiration that you didn't know you had. Maybe it's receiving information or news or relationships coming into your life that is going to really help you and really push you out of your comfort zone in order to grow. I feel like there's going to be some interesting sort of conversations or just energy around the time of this full moon that is maybe helping us let go of stuff. There is some interesting energy happening with Saturn. We've got Uranus and Pluto. We've got this mini sort of trine happening, mini grand trine energy happening with this energy. So it's a mixed energy, of course. It's not a sort of grand air trine or anything like that, but it is bringing in a lot of energy to do with Pluto, with Uranus, and with Saturn, and also Neptune. Neptune is just stationed retrograde. Saturn's about to station retrograde. It's really this reflecting energy. It's very much this, where in this new phase of life are you at? It's almost this very this chrysalis energy I'm sort of feeling. It's like we're in this chrysalis of life at the moment, that we're sort of just sort of in the goo so to speak. We're sort of molding and shifting and changing ourselves in a way that we're not too sure how we're going to emerge. We're not too sure how it's going to work, but we're feeling positive in what is going on, and that we're able to sort of make those changes, let go of those things that we're needing to let go of in order to progress forward. We do have Mars conjoining the south node, opposing the north node at the time of this full moon. It's an interesting energy. In Virgo, we're ready to declutter. We're ready to let go. We're ready to cut it out. We're ready to cleanse out our life in a way that could be quite critical, could be quite brutal. So just be cautious of how you're communicating and expressing that energy, especially with Mercury in its retrograde shadow period. With Mercury in Leo, we may be really feeling confident in how we communicate and express ourselves, but just to be cautious, Mercury is going to be stationing retrograde very soon. So we may be wanting to communicate these changes we want to make. We're ready, but the person we're talking to, it might not be ready to receive this information that you're ready to tell them. So just to be cautious of that energy. The moon, obviously, our emotions are in a very practical mindset. We're very much that Capricorn, grounded, practical, but a little bit cold. So just to be cautious of that energy. How you're communicating and expressing yourself could come off as cold and calculated. So just maybe wait until the moon has maybe moved out of Capricorn to start expressing those feelings. Or if you do express them, maybe just make sure you're expressing them in a way that you take into consideration the other person's feelings and express them with a little bit of empathy. That's that full moon energy. I do like it. I do think it is going to be a bit of a nicer full moon than the full moons we've had, but it is still got that tricky energy. The moon in Capricorn's always a little tricky. So moving on to the 13th of July, we have Saturn stationing retrograde. So with Saturn stationing retrograde, it will be stationing retrograde at 1 degree and 56 minutes of Aries. Saturn will regress back into Pisces and ingress back into Aries once it moves out of its retrograde shadow period. Now this will be happening at 4:07 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time. Again, Saturn is an outer planet transit, however, it is a bit more personal. It's a bit more of an energy we'll feel on a bit of a personal level, especially if you have strong personal placements in Aries or Pisces, or even Libra or Virgo. You'll likely feel this energy on a very personal level. Saturn stationing retrograde, we might feel like the pressure is easing a little bit. We might feel like we've had this very much serious energy happening in Aries. We've had this new wave of energy. We've had Saturn and Pisces for so long. We've learnt how to restructure our boundaries and what is important to us when it comes to restructuring our faith and restructuring our beliefs. Now we're restructuring how we perceive ourselves, how we want to be, how we want to show up, and our goals, our personal self. We're maybe feeling there's less pressure on that to do and shift and make those changes now. Maybe being a bit kinder to ourselves. With Saturn retrograde, it's very much that internal energy rather than an external presence. So if you're having a situation that's really bogging you down, that's really feeling intense, I feel like the pressure is going to ease a little bit with Saturn stationing retrograde. It's going to just take the pressure off that situation. We might feel it more internally. We might be putting the pressure on ourselves rather than other people putting the pressure on us, so to speak. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde. So as we know with all Mercury retrograde stations, double, triple check everything. If you have any important documents that you need to sign, make sure you have a second or third set of eyes look over them, look over the fine terms, and don't purchase anything big ticket unless you have maybe some insurance or a warranty or something that you can return it just in case. Obviously life happens, and if you have something that you have to sign, just be aware it might not just be what you thought it was when Mercury stations direct. So just to be cautious of that energy. We know Mercury retrogrades. If you have personal planets in Leo, if you have personal planets in Aquarius, you're likely going to feel this energy quite strongly. Or if you have any fire sign energy, you'll likely find this energy quite impactful in maybe a more positive way. If you have any fixed energy, you might find this a little bit more challenging. Now, it will be happening at 15 degrees and 34 minutes of Leo, and it will happen at 4:44 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time. Then on the 21st of July, we have that energy we were sort of feeling around the time of the full moon, with Mars conjoining the South Node, opposing the North Node. This is coming exact. So whatever sort of situations were coming up around the time of the full moon, we might feel like we need to put those into action right now. We might see the repercussions of those conversations that we had around the time of the full moon. We might just be feeling things on a bit more of an intense level. We're needing to let go, we're needing to cut out, we're needing to move on from something in order to move forward towards the situations and goals that we're wanting to bring into our life. We're needing to clear the slate. We needed to clean up. We needed to clean house. If you have your natal Mars in Virgo, you know this energy quite prominently. You know what this Mars and Virgo energy is, but it's a really good energy just for sort of sorting things out, doing the tasks that you might have been putting off. You're likely going to be really pressured maybe to do those now. On the 23rd of July, the sun will move into Leo, so happy Leo season. Arguably the best season, and I'm biased, I'm a Leo, so happy Leo season to all my fellow Leos out there. This is our time to shine. We shine all the time, but but no, this is Leo season, so enjoy this season. We do have Mercury retrograde in our sign for a little bit, but it will station direct next month. But happy Leo season, make it a good one, and enjoy celebrating all month long, because I know you do. Then on the 23rd of July, we also have Venus in Gemini squaring Mars in Virgo. Not a great energy to kick off Leo season. It's this tension. Could be some sexual tension, could be some tension around our finances, could be tension around our relationships. It is in square with Venus. So whatever challenging energy is happening with Venus, it's usually a positive. So we could just be feeling motivated to get out of our comfort zone. We could be feeling motivated to do the things we've been putting off, or we could be feeling motivated to finally get our shit together, which is never a bad thing. It just maybe we needed a little bit of a kick, a little bit of fire under us to get that done. Then on the 25th of July, we do have the new moon happening in Leo. Now this is happening at 2 degrees and 8 minutes of Leo, and it is happening at 7:11 a.m. New Zealand Standard Time. Now this new moon, it's spicy, but it's not completely terrible. It's not as great as the Cancerian new moon that we had last month, but I do feel like it is an interesting new moon for setting ourselves up for success for the long term. We're identifying triggers that we need to move on from, need to clean up, need to clear out in order to ensure we're aligning ourselves with our goals and direction that we're wanting to proceed with this year and into the next few months. So at the time of the new moon, we do have obviously the moon and the sun conjoining at 2 degrees and 8 minutes of Leo. We also have Mercury retrograde in the mix, which is identifying that whatever is coming up right now will be a bit of a theme when Mercury stations direct. So if you're having situations that are coming up that could be challenging or need for your attention, especially with that Venus in Gemini square Mars in Virgo and also forming a T-square to the nodes, I feel like that energy is going to be coming up for you again once Mercury stations direct and moves out of its retrograde shadow period. So whatever is coming up, whatever challenges that we're needing to face will likely come back up again when Mercury is out of its retrograde shadow period. We obviously have Uranus in Gemini, and that is forming nice angles similar to what was happening at the full moon in Capricorn. But I feel like this energy is helping us again. We're identifying things that we're needing to move on from, cut out and clear out. But this is positively showing us reasons why we need to do that. Maybe we're seeing things from a new fresh perspective. We're having these intuitive insights and downloads. We're having these intuitive nudges and these feelings like we know we need to do it. We're maybe not sure quite why, but we know that this is for the greater good. We have the new moon forming a really strong trine to Saturn retrograde in Aries. So internally, again, we're feeling this need to push ourselves. We're needing to sort of tune into our creativity, tune into that fire, that passion that is within us, tune into what is driving and motivating us and the reasons why we're doing things. I think the reasons why we're needing to make these changes will need to be at the forefront. Remember your why as to why you're going towards your goals. I think will be really important to reassess why you're doing the things you're doing, and are they helping you or are they hindering you? I think that's going to be a big question around the time of this new moon. We also have Chiron forming a square to Pluto and to the new moon at this time. So it's forming a T-square to Chiron, which is obviously going to be stationing retrograde in a little bit as well. So this energy is maybe identifying wounds that we haven't quite moved on from, we've done a lot of healing in the Aries area of our chart. This is not a new energy to us, but it's triggering. Maybe we're leading up to this Chiron retrograde. We're leading up to reviewing and revisiting all the things and lessons that we've been going through. Maybe this is bringing to the surface what will be the key theme for this Chiron retrograde. Maybe this is bringing to the surface things that we haven't quite healed. Triggers are still coming up that we need to reassess, look at, and maybe heal from in a certain way. Maybe approach this in a different way, especially with Uranus now in Gemini. We've got this fresh mindset. Maybe approaching this situation or whatever triggers are coming up with a new mindset, with new perspective, with new information that we might be receiving. So I do like this new moon for manifesting. There is a bit of a caveat with that. We have Mercury retrograde, not ideal for manifesting because things you're manifesting might not turn out the way you want them to. And we also have a lot of retrograde energy. But I also say that in the same breath is that it is trine Saturn. So whatever you're manifesting has the ability to be stable for the long term or to show up in a longer term way, in a more stable way, in a way that is more of assessing that foundation and that balance. It could be just that you're reassessing where you're at and making new goals rather than setting intense manifestations around the time of this new moon. So moving on, the final couple transits that I want to talk about this month, and that is obviously Chiron stationing retrograde on the 31st of July, and that is happening at 27 degrees and 9 minutes of Aries, and that is happening at 2:41 a.m. New Zealand Standard Time. So again, like we just talked about, Chiron stationing retrograde is about reassessing how far we've come with all of our healing that we've been doing, all the triggers that have been coming up for us, and maybe how far we may need to go, or we may need to do in terms of our own personal healing. And then also on the 31st of July, Venus will be moving into Cancer. So this is a nice energy. It's more focusing on our home, our family. Venus will start to conjoin Jupiter, which is exciting. It's a nice energy, especially if you have Cancer placements, or if you have Capricorn placements, or if you have any strong water placements. I like this energy for you. This is a really positive, really nice energy for investing in your home, investing in time with family, and just investing in what nourishes you. Perfect for the winter season in New Zealand, and a really nice energy for connecting in a really emotional, nurturing way with new romantic partnerships for those over in the Northern Hemisphere for your flirty summer season. But I really like this energy. It's a really nice energy to tap in and tune into your emotions in a positive way to close out the month of July. So the collective pull for this month is looking at what we all need. So looking at what we all need to have more of this month of July, and that is trust. Trust and faith in the power of the universe. So I actually love that. I think that's really perfect for that Uranus transiting into Gemini. I think trust the process, trust what is coming through, and lean in to your own innate ability to trust your intuition. So adding in that message into also the card pull that I'll pull for every single rising sign, but adding in trust into this month of July to help us get through as a collective in general. So for Aries and Aries rising, at the beginning of the month you will be having Neptune stationing retrograde in your first house of self, maybe alleviating a little bit of confusion or illusionment or disillusionment to do with who you're becoming, this person you're stepping into. Maybe you're starting to see through the confusion or understand why certain things have been happening in order for you to take on the challenge or simply shift and change how you're being perceived by others and how you are putting yourself out into the world. There's going to be a bit of a deep reflection going into the rest of the year while Neptune is stationing retrograde in your first house and then moving back into your 12th house of Pisces. Also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving into your Gemini 3rd house. How you communicate and express yourself will likely have a hint of Venusian flair. You might be feeling like people are receiving what you're having to say more helpfully or in a more positive note, or you might just be feeling like you're able to communicate and express yourself in a way that you maybe haven't been before. You also might be having lovely conversations with new friendships, new relationships, or new connections in some way. Then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving in to your 3rd house of Gemini. So there's going to be a bit of a switch up and a shake up when it comes to, again, how you communicate and express yourself, when it comes to maybe some study that you're doing, or simply to do with where you're living, where you're located, or something to do with maybe how you're putting yourself out there, how you're sort of communicating in a way that maybe you're wanting to shift and change that. Maybe you're having unique connections with your extended family. Maybe you're getting to know them a bit more, or maybe you are sort of investing some new energy into maybe a commerce or a business idea that you've had. Now this is a longer term transit, so it will be showing up a little bit later, but it is shifting and changing. It's finally moving out of your 2nd house of finances. That's a bit of a breath of fresh air when it comes to how you make your money. Things likely won't feel so up and down, but it will feel a little bit more stabilized. Just some changes when it comes to how you communicate or even study that you might be pursuing. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon in Capricorn will be happening in your 10th and 4th houses. So something to do with your career, some sort of career move or achievement that you've been working towards, or a project is simply coming to light. Something's coming to a culmination point. Something's being ready to be closed up now and moved on from. It is a nicer full moon. It will be a little bit more positive than the previous full moons we've had, so it might just be a nice ending to something that you've been working really hard on. Especially with Jupiter in the mix in your 4th house. It's like you are feeling really praised and maybe appreciated for the work that you've been doing. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 1st house of self. Similar energy to the Neptune retrograde station. Having a lot of retrograde energy when it comes to your sense of self. Maybe you're feeling like the pressure is finally lifting off who you're trying to be, or this person that you're trying to shift and change into. Maybe you're feeling less pressure to really become that person right now, and you're sort of reassessing how things are feeling internally, and it's alleviating a bit of that stress and strain. Saturn will regress back into your Pisces 12th house over the next few months, so this will probably alleviate that a lot more when it does move out of your 1st house of self. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 5th house, so whatever conversations that you're having to do with maybe things that light you up, bring you joy, things about your children or children in your life, or things about romantic partnerships might be coming back up to the surface during Mercury's retrograde period. It has been in its shadow retrograde since the end of last month, so you might be noticing that conversations that you've been having tend to come back round for you to review during this Mercury retrograde. As always, make sure you triple check anything important, but because it's in your 5th house, I think it's a little bit easier for you this time around, Aries rising. Then on the 23rd of July, the Sun will also be moving into your Leo 5th house, shortly joined on the 25th of July by the Moon, forming a positive new moon in your 5th house of what brings you joy, romantic partnerships, and children. So this is a nice new moon to manifest and call in anything new and exciting that you're wanting to create space for, or you're wanting to plant those seeds of manifestation and call more of that into your life, Aries rising. It will potentially form either a degree-based or form a sign-based trine to your ascendant. So I think this is a really nice energy if you are wanting to utilize this moon for a manifesting opportunity. Do be cautious that Mercury is still retrograde, so it would proceed with a bit of caution, but it is still a nice new moon regardless. And lastly, on the 31st of July, Chiron also will be stationing retrograde in your 1st house of self, maybe helping you to reassess all the healing that you've been doing over these past few years with Chiron in this house, how far you've come, and maybe just some things that you still need to work on. We all have them. We're always working on ourselves. So then also on the 31st, we do have Venus moving into a Cancer 4th house. This is a nice energy if you're wanting to invest any time, energy, or resources into your home. Maybe you're having conversations or connections with your family that feel really wholesome and really nurturing in some way, or a relationship is maybe making you feel this way too. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Aries and Aries rising. Your wish is coming true. Celebrate your success. I love that card for you this month, Aries rising. So don't give up. Your wish is coming true, and celebrate your success and how far you've come this year already. So for Taurus and Taurus rising, this month of July will be focusing around your 12th house at the beginning of the month and throughout this month of July. With at the beginning of the month on the 5th of July, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 12th house, maybe helping you to connect with your intuition on a bit more of a stronger or more tangible level. That veil of illusion is lifting. You may be able to go a bit deeper and understand and decipher those dreams a little bit more clearer than maybe you have been. Also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving into your Gemini 2nd house. This is a nice energy when it comes to giving your finances a bit of a boost, when it comes to just bringing some harmonious energy into this area in life for you. Maybe you are having relationships or situations specifically to do with work or how you make your money come through a little bit more easier, and things are happening a little bit more harmoniously for you, Taurus rising. Then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be finally moving out of your 1st house and into your 2nd house. Now Uranus in the 2nd house can bring in unexpected influxes, both positive and challenging, to the financial house. So just to be cautious, you might experience over these next few years some massive ebbs and flows when it comes to your finances. It obviously is very personal depending on your own personal placements, but you could experience some massive changes when it comes to your financial stability, or when it comes to your connection with what you find is financially stable for you and your own sense of values. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Capricorn 9th house and your Cancer 3rd house. So there could be some communications or situations to do with either travel, legalities, or family, or local community that could be coming to a culmination point during this full moon. It could feel a bit serious, it could feel a little bit heavy, but it will likely feel like it's finally coming to a close. On the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 12th house, which will be alleviating a bit of that mental pressure, a bit of that seriousness or that intensity around your mental health, your dream space, or even certain situations that you do find yourself in. Things are likely going to be lightening up a little bit, especially with both Neptune and Saturn regressing back into your Pisces 11th house over the next couple of months. On the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 4th house, which could bring some interesting conversations or recircling back to conversations to do with your home and family, to do with your property, to do with investments in properties. If you have any investments in your property or other properties, there could be conversations that could be coming back up to the surface that you need to revisit over these next few weeks while Mercury moves out of its retrograde period. And on the 23rd of July, the Sun will be moving into your Leo 4th house, and also shortly joined by the Moon on the 25th of July, and that will be forming a new moon in your Leo 4th house. So it will be a nice new moon for manifesting anything to do with home or family. I will suggest to proceed with a little bit of caution because obviously Mercury retrograde is in the mix. However, if you are wanting to look at manifesting, this is a nice new moon, just to be cautious of that Mercury retrograde energy. Lastly, on the 31st of July, Chiron will finally be stationing retrograde in your 12th house of Aries, which will again be bringing a refocus of how much mental healing that you've done, how much healing you've done on a really spiritual level. Maybe you have gone through a real spiritual growth over these last few years. It's kind of reassessing how far you've come and any pain points that you might need to revisit during Chiron's retrograde period. And then lastly, Venus will be moving into your Cancer 3rd house on the 31st of July, which is a lovely energy when it comes to expressing yourself, conversations, especially to do with people or situations that light you up, help you feel nurtured and seen, especially with Jupiter in the mix in your 3rd house currently. And it is also a nice time to maybe communicate or look at some certain study or apply yourself to study in a way that really fills your cup up. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Taurus and Taurus rising. Freedom. Spread your wings this month, Taurus and Taurus rising. So I think that's a really lovely message, just to really ensure that you are sort of allowing yourself to feel a bit of freedom this month. I think that's going to be sort of indicated by that lessening of intensity in your 12th house that could be weighing you down, but there's a sense of freedom this month for you, Taurus and Taurus rising. So for Gemini and Gemini rising, at the beginning of July, you will be having Neptune stationing retrograde in your 11th house of connections, of friendships, and of your hopes, dreams, and wishes. So you might have been feeling like this area was feeling a little bit confusing or uncertain. There's going to be a bit of a veil lifted around this area in life for you over the next few months with Neptune being in its retrograde period. Also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving into your 1st house, which is a lovely energy for being magnetic, for investing in yourself, for investing in your appearance, for investing in how people perceive you. This is a positive energy. Venus is moving out of that 12th hidden house and is finally showing herself in your 1st house of self, which is a lovely energy to start off the month with Gemini rising. Then on the 7th of July, you will have Uranus moving into your 1st house of self. It will be moving out of your 12th house finally into your 1st house. You might be feeling some unexpected or radical change brewing on the horizon when it comes to how you express yourself or put yourself out there, or how others perceive you. Maybe you're ready to shift and change into a new version of yourself that you've been feeling kind of bubbling away there under the surface, ready to finally let out and let into the world. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Capricorn 8th house and your Cancer 2nd house. So something to do with your finances is coming to a culmination point. It might feel heavy, it might feel serious, but it is finally coming to that closing point that you've been so desperately waiting for. With Jupiter in the mix, it is alleviated, but it could feel quite intense and overwhelming at the time, but it is going to likely turn out quite positive. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 11th house of connections. So there is this feeling of the seriousness is being lifted, being alleviated. You're maybe seeing the wood from the trees. You're maybe not seeing things so intense when it comes to how you're connecting and networking. Maybe you're able to connect with others or reassess your dreams, hopes and wishes, and if this is really the direction you're wanting to go in, or is it the pressure that you're feeling externally or through peers that you're wanting to go this way. It's kind of a reassessing of all of that, especially with both Neptune and Saturn moving back into your 10th house of Pisces later into the year. There's going to be a bit of a reassessment again when it comes to your career and when it comes to hopes, dreams and wishes. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your 3rd house of Leo. I would be cautious for this Mercury retrograde period for you, Gemini rising, being that Mercury is in your 3rd house and Mercury is your chart ruler. So just to be cautious of this energy. It will oppose Pluto. There may be some intense conversations that you're having, especially around legalities or travel. So there could just be some intensity, especially as we lead into Leo season from the 23rd and into the 25th of July, when we do have the new moon happening in your 3rd house of communication. So I wouldn't suggest manifesting around the time of this new moon, but if you do have your natal Mercury in retrograde, this could be a potent new moon for you. So it really depends on your personal placements. However, with Mercury retrograde, I would err on the side of caution. It is a lovely new moon regardless, but I would just recommend just being a bit cautious if you're calling in manifestations, as they might not turn out exactly how you're wanting them to turn out when you're wanting to manifest them. Then on the 31st of July, we do have Chiron stationing retrograde in your 11th house of networking. So again, reassessing how far you've come when it comes to healing this area in life for you over these past few years, and just looking at how far you do need to go, if there's anything that's coming up for or triggering you, or anything that you need to just reassess during this Chiron retrograde period. And lastly, Venus will be moving into your 2nd house of Cancer, which is a lovely energy to really invest in your finances, invest in your financial streams of income. I feel like you might find this a really positive energy because Venus will conjoin Jupiter into next month and really maybe emphasize or expand this area in life for you in a really positive, potentially overwhelming, but a really positive way. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Gemini and Gemini rising. Trust, faith in the power of the universe. And I think that really has to do with that Uranus moving into your 1st house. I feel like it's going to be like a shift of faith. Uranus is very much a spiritual energy too, along with Neptune. It is very much that radical shift and change and trusting in the universe. So trust whatever is happening for you, trust whatever is coming up, whatever insights you're having to do with yourself and how you want to put yourself out there. Trust that, lean into it, and just work on it over the upcoming years, Gemini and Gemini rising. So for Cancer and Cancer rising, at the beginning of the month, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your 10th house of career, alleviating some of that disillusionment or illusionment when it comes to your career. You're able to see through that veil. Maybe you're having more creative insights or tapping into your intuition more when it comes to making those bigger career moves. You also have Venus moving into your Gemini 11th house on the 5th of July, bringing a bit of secrecy when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your finances. Maybe you're making moves behind the scenes that you're not quite ready to share yet. Lean into that energy and just trust that whatever is happening behind the scenes will show itself a bit later into the month. Then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving out of your 11th house of connections and into your 12th house of subconscious and hidden areas in your life. So there could be some unexpected changes or shifts when it comes to your connection to spirituality, when it comes to your connection with with your health. Maybe there's some radical shifts and improvements when it comes to your health or mental health that you've been working on, Cancer rising. And there's also something likely happening behind the scenes that you're not quite sure of. It's not quite certain yet, but just trust that whatever insights and downloads are coming through are serving you and putting you in the right direction for the highest good. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Cancer first house and your Capricorn 7th house. Something has been illuminated here to do with your sense of self and your relationships. Maybe a relationship issue or a problem, or something to do with your sense of self within your contractual agreements is coming to a culmination point. Maybe you're ready to shift and change and move on from this energy that has maybe feeling like it's been a bit stagnant or holding you back in some way. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your second house of finances. So just to be cautious, whatever conversations that you might be having around your finances or around your work or anything to do with that it will be coming back up to the surface when Mercury does station direct. So just to be conscious of whatever conversations you're having now will likely be revisited during Mercury's retrograde period and into it when it stations direct. Also leading into Leo season on the 23rd and into the 25th, when the new moon does happen in your second house of finances, I would err on the side of caution when it comes to manifesting this area in life for you, just because Mercury is retrograde and it is opposing Pluto and it is in your financial houses. It could feel a little bit intense, it could feel a little bit emotional and overwhelming, and it maybe feels like you're not able to communicate or express yourself clearly. So if you're wanting to manifest, I would potentially just be cautious as to what you're manifesting, as it might turn out not quite how you're envisioning it. The 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 10th house of career, alleviating some of that pressure and that intensity when it comes to restructuring your career or really making serious moves or important decisions. Maybe you're able to sort of reassess and understand why you're needing to make these changes and sort of see if this is the direction that you're seriously wanting to go in, or if you are just feeling the pressure to make decisions which isn't feeling quite right with you. Whatever the case is, you are undergoing a serious transformation when it comes to your career and how you put yourself out there. But I feel like this station of Saturn will just be alleviating some of that pressure that's maybe being put on you through either external or internal feelings within yourself. So on the 31st, Venus will be moving into your Cancer first house, which is a lovely energy. Maybe those things that were happening behind the scenes at the beginning of the month are starting to show themselves tangibly in your sense of self or within your how people are perceiving you, and you're likely feeling really magnetic when it comes to situations or opportunities that could be coming your way, Cancer rising. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you this month of July. Don't stop, a miracle is around the corner. And I feel like that's a lot of that 12th house energy. It might feel like you want to stop, that you want to pause, that you're over it, that you're wanting to sort of call in this energy now. Don't stop. It is coming. It's going to happen. I feel like wait till the end of the month. Things will show themselves a bit easier for you, Cancer and Cancer rising. Leo and Leo rising. On the 5th of July, you will be having Neptune station retrograde in your 9th house of travel, of overseas connections and legalities. So if you're having any uncertainty around this area in life for you, this will be alleviated a little bit when Neptune stations retrograde. Maybe you're able to tap into your intuition and reassess this area in life a little easier and just understand where it is that you're heading with these changes during this retrograde period. Also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving in to your Gemini 11th house, a wonderful energy for networking, for connecting with friendships, for just connecting with your hopes, dreams and wishes in general. Maybe you are feeling more lit up and inspired and calling in invitations and connections that are maybe helping and assisting you on a financial level. Then Then on the 7th of July, Uranus will also be moving into 11th house of networking. This could bring some radical shifts and changes when it comes to the people or circles that you're surrounding yourself with. Maybe you're just feeling like you're able to connect with people in ways you weren't expecting, or you're calling in new sort of circles of friendships that maybe you hadn't really considered before. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in Capricorn 6th house and your Cancer 12th house. So something to do with your health, your well-being, your work situation, your daily routines is coming to a culmination point. It could feel quite serious, it could feel quite intense, but you are likely having some positive and lucky energy supporting this culmination behind the scenes that you're maybe not quite aware of. So just trust that whatever is coming up to end is for the greater good and will be supported. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 9th house of overseas connections, alleviating some of this pressure that might be put on you to either travel or some legalities or study. Maybe you're feeling like you're able to break through some restrictions that have been sort of put in place, or move through things a lot easier and not feeling like things have been held back or the serious undertone is surrounding this area in life for you. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your 1st house of self. So just to be cautious that whatever energies are coming up for you, how people are perceiving you, how you're communicating and expressing yourself, something is going to be coming back up to the surface. Could be to do with your relationships. Mercury will be opposing Pluto in your 7th house, so some sort of conversations could be feeling quite intense and could just be coming back up around again and again until they are resolved. Then on the 23rd of July, we will be moving into Leo season with the sun moving into your 1st house of self, and then the new moon happening on the 25th of July. So this new moon is going to feel quite personal. You might be feeling like this is a great new moon to look at restructuring how people perceive you. Look at how you are putting yourself out there, how you're communicating and expressing yourself, and just things to do with your sense of self. Maybe you're just going through a bit of a identity crisis in a little bit of the sense. You're ready to transform some part of yourself that maybe you hadn't really considered before. Then on the 31st of July, Chiron will be stationing retrograde in your 9th house of travel, overseas connections, and sort of looking how far you've come to do with your healing in this area in life and any triggers that will require a little bit more healing while Chiron is still in this house for you. Then lastly, on the 31st of July, Venus will be moving into your 12th house. So this will be feeling a little bit intense, something is happening behind the scenes, that kind of energy. So just trust that whatever is going on behind the scenes will come to the light of day when Venus does move into your 1st house next month. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Leo and Leo rising. The Star, blessings, inspiration, time to shine. I think Leo season is going to bring a lot of that for you, Leo rising. I think that with the sun and the moon in your 1st house on the 25th, and then a lot of this pressure being alleviated from this retrograde energy in your 9th house, which will either form a degree-based trine or a sign-based trine to your ascendant. I think know that you are going to be the star of the show this month, Leo rising, especially to the later end of the month and into next month. So time to shine, Leo rising, for the month of July. So for Virgo and Virgo rising, on the 5th of July, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your 8th house of finances. So if there has been any disillusionment, uncertainty around your financial income, around other people's money, around debt, inheritance, or taxes, this is going to be alleviated with Neptune stationing retrograde in this house for you. Things are going to become a little bit clearer. Maybe you're able to see through the fog or the haze a little bit easier. Also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving into your Gemini 10th house. This is a wonderful energy, really positive energy to do with your career, public achievements, or any public projects or things you've been working on. You're likely just going to be feeling the love, feeling the appreciation, and maybe feeling it in a financial way too. Then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving into your 10th house of career. This will be a shift and unexpected and radical change when it comes to your career, when it comes to your work, when it comes to any projects or public achievements. You're just likely having this sense of this kind of bright idea or shift or change when it comes to your career. Maybe you are wanting to completely shift gears and shift sort of what you're doing for a career, which is not unlike you having a Gemini 10th house, especially if you have your MC in Gemini. Having that in the sign of Gemini means you're kind of a jack of all trades. You've likely dabbled in a lot of different careers throughout your lifetime, so this is bringing in this new, fresh perspective for you to be able to invest in new energy and invest in new opportunities. This is a long-term transit, so expect this energy over the next few years, and understand that this will be an interesting change and a somewhat positive change for you in certain ways, Virgo rising. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your 5th and 11th houses. So something is coming to a culmination point here. It's a bit of a nicer axis to have this full moon. Obviously the moon doesn't like being in Capricorn, so it's a nicer energy for you, Virgo rising. You might be kind of having something coming to a culmination point to do with maybe children or romantic partnerships in your life or friendships. Something's coming to a culmination point or a head here that you're like finally ready to move on and let go and move past this energy. It will be really supported as Jupiter will be involved, but it might feel quite intense at the time. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 8th house of finances, alleviating that pressure that has been put on you either internally or personally or externally, either for you personally or an external situation. Something has been sort of lifted here. Both Neptune and Saturn will move back into your Pisces 7th house over the next few months, so there is going to be this pressure and intensity lifted a little bit, so you can sort of start to understand what this transit is going to be meaning and showing you while you work through this energy. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 12th house. So there's some sort of communication, some conversation or some situation that could be coming back up to the surface for you to review, put to a close, put to an end, that could be just happening behind the scenes. You might not be aware of what's happening, or you might be aware. It could be to do with your mental health, it could be to do with your health in general. There's conversations or situations that are needing your revision over these next few weeks, especially as we lead into Leo season on the 23rd of July and into the new moon in Leo on the 25th of July. This new moon is a nice new moon, but it is a cautious new moon when it comes to manifesting. With Mercury retrograde closely in the mix here, I would err on the side of caution, especially with Mercury being your chart ruler and this happening in your 12th house, the hidden house. So you're not quite aware or not quite privy to everything that is happening yet. So just err on the side of caution when it comes to this new moon energy. Then on the 31st of July, Chiron will also be stationing retrograde in your 8th house of Aries. So again, looking at the healing that you've been doing around your finances. Maybe you've been healing your connection to your money, connection to other people's money, and your connection to just things that feel a little bit intense or taboo in your life. Maybe you're doing a lot of inner healing. So it's sort of reassessing how far you've come and just any triggers that might be coming up for you that you do need to work on. And then also lastly, on the 31st of July, Venus will be moving into your Cancer 11th house. So this is a nice energy for networking, for connecting with others, for opening yourself up to opportunities that could expand and grow you in some way, especially as Venus starts to approach her conjunction to Jupiter in your 11th house next month. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Virgo and Virgo rising. Rest, give yourself time to recuperate. I think that is very much that new moon in the 12th house. I think with a lot of that energy happening for you towards the mid to later end of the month, especially with Mercury, your chart ruler, stationing retrograde in the 12th house. Take some time to rest, Virgo rising. I know that's not easy for you. Take some time to rest, give yourself time to recuperate, especially towards the end of the month, Virgo and Virgo rising. For Libra and Libra rising, 5th of July, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your 7th house of connections, partnerships, and legal contractual agreements. So there could be some alleviating of uncertainty when it comes to the relationships in your life. Could be alleviating some of that intensity. Could just be alleviating some of that confusion confusion or uncertainty when it comes to your partnerships, your contractual agreements, and just bringing a sense of like connecting to your intuition or just seeing through the veil of illusion when it comes to this area in life. Then also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving in to your Gemini 9th house, bringing a lovely energy to do with putting yourself out there, expanding your horizons, connecting with people from a foreign culture, or even travel that you might be thinking about embarking on. This is a really lovely energy for you. Then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving into your Gemini 9th house. Now this is an interesting energy. It will bring some unexpected changes or shifts to do with how you travel, to do with your connection to overseas work or people in your life. Could also be some unexpected changes to do with any legalities or any higher study that you could be thinking about embarking on. Now it is a longer term transit, so it will take a few years to fully manifest, but this will be an energy to watch out for this month. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Capricorn 4th house and your Cancer 10th house. So there could be some shifts and changes or a culmination point coming to do with your home and family life, coming to do with your work and career, how you put yourself out there, coming to do with some sort of thing. Something is coming to a culmination point here that you're finally ready to let go of, shift, change, and move on from. It will feel a bit intense, it will feel a bit heavy, but it is supported. Just trust that it is supported. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. So again, alleviating some of that pressure and that restriction and challenge when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your partnerships, your marriage or contractual agreements. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your 11th house of social networks, connections, or relationships, especially to do with how you put yourself out there in terms of connecting and networking with others. And your hopes, dreams, and wishes, you could be just reassessing these. You could be relooking at these, and conversations that you're having to do with networking could come back up to the surface for you to revisit, or just continuously come back up that you need to sort of look at and work on over the remainder of the month. Then on the 23rd of July, we will be moving into Leo season with the sun moving into your 11th house, and then the moon moving into your 11th house on the 25th when we do have that new moon in Leo. Now, we'll just be cautious about manifesting around the time of this new moon. It could be a great opportunity for you to connect with people or call in people that you want to connect with, or a really nice opportunity for you to reassess your hopes, dreams, and wishes for the remainder of this year and where you want to go and what you want to achieve. Then on the 31st of July, Chiron will be stationing retrograde in your 7th house of partnerships. So there's a lot of retrograde energy happening opposing your ascendant this month, Libra rising. So there could be a lot of revisiting of how much healing you've done in your partnerships over these past few years, how much you've got to go, and any triggers that could be coming up that you need to relook at. Then lastly, on the 31st of July, Venus will be moving into your 10th house. So this is a lovely energy, especially as Venus approaches her conjunction to Jupiter in your 10th house at the moment, really bringing in an influx of finances, of people, of opportunity, of appreciation when it comes to do with your career and your public achievements. What a lovely way to end the month, you Libra and Libra rising. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Libra and Libra rising. You are safe. The universe has your back. So trust in that. I think that is a big message, especially around that Capricorn full moon on the 11th of July. But I do think trust the universe has your back. You have Jupiter in your 10th house at the moment, Libra rising. That is super positive. So look out for that energy this month, Libra and Libra rising. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, at the beginning of the month, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 6th house, bringing a little bit of a veil lifting energy to do with your health, your well-being, your career, your work, your co-workers. This could be alleviating a lot of uncertainty when it comes to this area in life for you, and you're maybe able to cut through that veil of illusion in some way, trusting your intuition and tapping into this energy. Then also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving into your Gemini 8th house. This is a nice energy for your finances. You might be receiving a bit of a boost or some unexpected positive energy coming through to how you make your money, other people's money, or debt inheritance that could be coming through to you this month and into next month. Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Then on the 7th of July, the unexpected energy of Uranus moving into your Gemini 8th house will probably bring some radical shifts and changes to do with your money, how you make your money, your finances, and just your connection with money in general. So looking at this from a new, fresh perspective will be key for you over these next few months and years while Uranus is in this house for you. This is an unexpected different energy that you are calling in new maybe streams of income or work that could be coming through to you in some way. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Cancer 9th house and Capricorn 3rd house. So there could be some conversations or situations that could be coming to a combination point. There could be something that to do with study or legalities or travel that could finally be coming to a close that you're finally moving on from. It could feel heavy and challenging, but just trust that it is supported as Jupiter is heavily involved in this full moon. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 6th house. So if you have been feeling some challenging, restrictive energy to do with your health, your work, your co-workers, this is likely going to be a little bit alleviated this month with that pressure being lifted with Saturn stationing retrograde. You're able to maybe understand this energy from a more internal perspective as why you're needing to make these changes and just sort of readying yourself for this energy as Saturn and Neptune will move back into your Pisces 5th house over the next few months and then move back into the 6th house for you over 2026 where they will tend to stay. So it's like kind of giving you a bit of a prelude and a bit of a chance to work through things before things become a little bit more intense again. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 10th house. So conversations to do with your work, your career, your public achievements could be revisiting. You could be revisiting old projects or old work could be coming back up to the surface that you just need to tie up in some way, especially leading into Leo season on the 23rd and into the 25th of July with the new moon happening in your 10th house of Leo. So I would suggest not necessarily manifesting around the time of this new moon. This could be just a great new moon to reassess where you're at, where you're wanting to go and what you're wanting to achieve, using that Mercury retrograde energy to your advantage rather than trying to go against the grain and call in new manifestations. As if you do sort of do that, things might work out not quite how you're expecting when Mercury is direct. So just be cautious around the time of that new moon if you are manifesting. Then on the 31st of July, Chiron will be stationing retrograde in your 6th house of health and well-being. So again, just reassessing how far you've come in healing this area in life for you and any triggers that you might still need to work on. Also on the 31st, Venus will be moving into your Cancer 9th house. So this is a nice energy for calling in new travel opportunities, investing in new study, positive energy to do with any legalities that you might be going through too, Scorpio rising. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Your wish is coming true. We have had this energy this month. So if you do have, I think it was Aries that got this energy, your wish is coming true. Celebrate your success. So celebrate your success, Scorpio rising. I think that's a really positive message for you this month. So you might be feeling like your luck isn't kind of running out, your luck isn't really there, but celebrate that success. I think celebrate that success, especially if it comes to your finances. If you have made those financial moves that are starting to pay off, celebrate that. Especially with Uranus moving into your 8th house, there might be some unexpected wins when it comes to investments too for you, Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. On the 5th of July, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 5th house, bringing a bit of a veil lifted to do with your relationships, your romantic partnerships, or your connection with your children in your life in some way, or hobbies, or what lights you up. You're starting to reassess maybe what these are and what these mean to you. Maybe you are feeling a little bit like you can cut through that veil of illusion this month with the Neptune stationing retrograde. Then on the also on the 5th, the Venus will be moving in to your Gemini 7th house. So some really positive energy when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your partnerships or contractual agreements, especially as on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving into this house for you too, bringing a breath of fresh air, some sort of unexpected radical change and shift when it comes to your relationships, your marriage, if you're married, or contractual agreements. You're likely going through a bit of an upheaval, a change, something unexpected, some unexpected shift is coming through for you, Sagittarius rising, especially as this energy will be opposing your ascendant in some way. It will bring a sense of change when it comes to maybe how you express yourself within your partnerships too. Now, this is a longer term transit, so this energy will play out over the next few years, but it will be an intense shift and change at the beginning of the month. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Capricorn 2nd house and your Cancer 8th house. So some sort of financial situation is coming to a close, is coming to a culmination point. Maybe you have been working through your finances or shifting or changing your finances or calling new streams of income in. Something is coming to a culmination point here. It could feel quite intense, could feel quite tricky, could feel quite triggering with that moon in Capricorn, where the moon does not like to be, but it is supported. I feel like it's going to be a challenging maybe shift or a intense shift, but it is supported. It might feel overwhelming at the time, but it does have a lot of energy from Jupiter, your chart ruler, so it is likely supported for you, and maybe isn't quite obvious, but it will be supported in a lot of different ways. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 5th house, so bringing a lighter sort of energy when it comes to your hobbies, what lights you up, brings you joy, or romantic partnerships or relationships with children in your life. It could just be lifting that sense of seriousness, lifting that sense of intensity, or lifting that sense of restrictive or challenging, or just you are going through a bit of a restructure when it comes to this area in life for you. So maybe you're able to see why you're needing to make these changes and able to implement them or just understand them a little clearer. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 9th house. So conversations that you're having to do, maybe legal conversations or study that you're doing or embarking on, you're maybe reassessing things are coming up to the surface that you're needing to work through or shift or change, especially as Mercury will be opposing Pluto. So whatever is coming up will likely be sort of revisited over this Mercury retrograde period, especially leading into Leo season, with the Sun moving into this house for you on the 23rd of July, followed by the moon on the 25th of July. Now this new moon is going to be a little bit tricky for manifesting because of Mercury retrograde's influence, so I would just be a little bit cautious in changing or shifting or manifesting during this time. It will sort of make a trine to your ascendant, either degree or sign based, so you could feel like you are wanting to really put your energy into this new moon, but just be a little bit cautious, as whatever you're trying to manifest may look a little different once Mercury stations direct. Then on the 31st of July, Chiron will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 5th house, reassessing how much healing you've done in this area in life and looking out for any triggers that might still be popping up for you. Also on the 31st, Venus will be moving into your Cancer 8th house. Now this is a lovely energy, especially as Venus approaches her conjunction to Jupiter, your chart ruler, in your 8th house. So I think this is a nice energy for investing, for looking at your connection with your finances and sort of assessing where you're at and just welcoming in this positive energy, whether that be through new income sources or just return on investments and payouts. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. Fire, classic. For you, Sagittarius rising, fire, transformation, rebirth, renewal. I feel like that energy is really potent because of that Uranus moving into your 7th house opposing your ascendant. So there is going to be this like baptism by fire kind of energy for you, Sagittarius rising. So lean into that rebirth, lean into that renewal. You're a fire sign, you're creative, ruled by Jupiter, very lucky. So lean into that energy this month, Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, seeing on the 5th of July, Neptune will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 4th house. So maybe lifting the veil of illusion or uncertainty when it comes to your home and family life, when it comes to your foundations, when it comes to your roots, when it comes to connecting with your ancestors. Maybe you are sort of uncertain as to how this will be looking for you, but there is some level of certainty coming with this retrograde period of Neptune. Maybe you're tapping into your intuition and understanding why these shifts and changes need to take place and why these things are happening during this retrograde period. Then on the 5th as well, Venus will be moving into your Gemini 6th house, bringing this positive energy when it comes to your career, daily work routines, your work in general, your health and well-being, bringing some positive energy into this area in life for you, because then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving in from your 5th house into your 6th house, bringing this new phase of energy that coming through to do with your work, with your daily routines, with your health, with your well-being, with your connection to co-workers or your work in general. So bringing in this new phase of radical shifts and changes, bringing in through this new level of sort of clarity in a way, these unexpected breakthroughs, these sort of downloads or intuitive hits that are coming through with Uranus moving into this house for you. Maybe you are having some unexpected breakthroughs when it does come to your health and well-being in general. On the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your 1st and 7th houses, illuminating something to do with your sense of self, to do with your relationships, to do with your marriage if you're married, or to do with contracts that could be coming through to a culmination point for you to revisit and look at. Something is coming to a tipping point here. Something is coming to a culmination stage here for you that you need to put to a close. That could feel quite intense and overwhelming, but there is some sense of positivity and reassuredness that it is being supported through that Jupiter energy during that full moon. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn, your chart ruler, will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 4th house. So maybe lifting some of that challenging intensity when it comes to your home and family life, when it comes to your home in general, or when it comes to your connecting with your foundations. So there's something that's being lifted here. Maybe you are reassessing things through a more personal lens, personal viewpoint, and feeling less of that external pressure. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 8th house. So conversations to do with your finances, other people's money, any loans, debt, or inheritances that you could be expecting. You might be having conversations that just refocus around this, reassess this, or things are just coming back up to the surface for you to look at. Then on the 23rd of July, moving into Leo season, and into the 25th of July, when the moon joins the sun in your Leo 8th house, during this new moon, you could be called to maybe call in new financial streams of income or opportunities. I would just err on the side of caution while Mercury is retrograde, as this new moon will be a little bit intense, will be a little bit challenging with this Mercury retrograde energy. It isn't a challenging new moon in general, but it will just have a layer of uncertainty, as if you are manifesting this in your life, it could come out a little differently on the other side when Mercury does station direct. Then on the 31st of July, Chiron will be stationing retrograde in your Aries 4th house, identifying all the healing and things that you've been doing to do with this area in life for you, and just maybe identifying any triggers that you still need to work on. On the 31st of July, Venus will be moving into your 7th house of contractual agreements, partnerships, and legal contracts. So this is a nice energy if you're calling in any new contractual agreements, or just bringing in this really positive flow of energy, especially as Venus is about to conjoin Jupiter in this house for you and oppose your ascendant at some point. So this is a really harmonious energy for you to end the month on, Capricorn rising. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you this month of July, Capricorn and Capricorn rising. The moon, subconscious mind, feminine intuition, which makes a lot of sense as we do have the full moon in Capricorn at the beginning of the month. So maybe pay attention to that full moon at the beginning of the month, as that will be in your first house and it will be feeling quite personal. So trust your subconscious mind and lean into that feminine intuition that you have, Capricorn and Capricorn Capricorn rising. So for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, kicking off July on the 5th with Neptune stationing retrograde in your Aries third house, maybe lifting that veil of uncertainty when it comes to conversations that you're having, when it comes to your extended family, when it comes to any travel or study that you're embarking on. Maybe you are feeling a little bit more certain during this Neptune retrograde period, or you're able to tap into your intuition and understand why these changes are needing to happen during this cycle. Then also on the 5th of July, Venus will be moving into your Gemini 5th house, bringing in this positive energy. Venus loves being in the 5th house. It's her house of joy. So lean into this positivity. You might be feeling like there's harmonious energy coming through to your romantic partnerships, coming through to your connection with your children in your life, or just what lights you up in general. It will also form a bit of a trine to your ascendant, either a degree-based or a sign-based trine at some point. So it is a really positive energy to really kick off the month on, because then on the 7th of July, Uranus will be moving into your 5th house, bringing some unexpected changes when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your romantic partnerships, your connection with your children, or just what lights you up and brings you joy. This will undergo a radical shift and change and transformation over the next 7 years. It is a nice house to experience this energy, and it will feel a little bit more of a positive for you, but it also could feel quite personal, as it will again also form a trine to your ascendant at some point as well. So you could feel like you're going through a bit of a personal change in a really positive way, and changing and shifting your connection to what lights you up and brings you joy, and the relationships in your life as well. On the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Capricorn 12th house and your Cancer 6th house. So something is coming to an ending, a close, a culmination point that could feel quite definitive for you, Aquarius rising. You could be feeling like this is a challenging end. It could feel like there's something that's finally coming to a tipping point or a closing point for you. It is supported, so Jupiter is currently in your 6th house of Cancer and is very heavily involved in this full moon energy. But just to be cautious of this, it will feel a bit intense at the time, but know that it is supported in a positive way. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing a retrograde in your 3rd house of communication and expression and travel, and connecting with your connection and connecting with extended family. It's also your chart ruler traditionally. So you'll likely be feeling this station quite personally. Maybe you're just feeling like the pressure has been lifted a little bit. You're feeling like you're able to sort of move through things a little bit easier without that sense of urgency or sense of restriction or challenge. Maybe you're just reassessing why you're needing to make these changes and why you're needing to implement a bit more structure when it comes to how you communicate and express yourself, or when it comes to connecting with others in some way. Both Saturn and Neptune will move back into your Pisces 2nd house over the next few months, so it will give you a bit of a prelude as to what to expect throughout 2026 when this energy is a little bit more permanent in this house for you. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will station retrograde in your Leo 7th house, so there could become some conversations around your contractual agreements, your relationships, or your one-to-one connections, or your marriage if you're married. So whatever conversations are coming up here will be a bit of a theme throughout this month, and could just be quite a point of revisitation and a point of trickiness, because Mercury will oppose Pluto in your 1st house. So you could feel quite triggered and challenged during these conversations. Then on the 23rd and into the 25th, as we move into Leo season, we will have the new moon happening on the 25th of July. So this new moon will feel quite personal being on this axis for you. It will feel a little bit tricky with Mercury retrograde involved and heavily opposing Pluto. So there will be some challenge during this new moon. So just to be cautious if you are thinking of manifesting, just to err on the side of caution. What you might be manifesting may not look exactly what you're wanting to manifest when Mercury does station direct. And to close off the month, we do have Chiron stationing retrograde in your Aries 3rd house. So there is a revisitation and a review of the healing that you've been doing, of the work that you've been doing, not only on yourself, but how you communicate and express yourself, and just identifying any areas that still need to be healed during this retrograde period. And then lastly, Venus will be moving into your Cancer 6th house. So a really positive energy. To close out the month, Venus will start to conjoin Jupiter, where it will be exact next month, but it will bring a really positive breath of fresh air into your work, your daily routines, and your health at the end of this month, Aquarius and Aquarius rising. But let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you this month. Growth, overcoming limitations, and I feel like that has a lot to do with that Uranus moving into that 5th house for you. It's going to trine your ascendant, and also that new moon happening in your 7th house opposing your ascendant. That's that growth energy, right? That's that change. That's that readying the soil for new manifestations and intentions to grow. So overcoming limitations will be key for you this month, Aquarius and Aquarius rising. For Pisces and Pisces rising, on the 5th of July, starting off the month, we do have Neptune stationing retrograde in your Aries 2nd house. So that illusion or uncertainty when it comes to do with your finances and how you make your money could be lifted towards the beginning of this month and over the next few months while you move through this Neptune station. So it will maybe lift the veil of illusion and help you understand why these shifts and changes needed to happen and will be happening over the next few years when Neptune does move back into this house for you the beginning of next year. So on the 5th of July, we do have Venus moving in to your Gemini 4th house, bringing a harmonious energy when it comes to investing in your home, family, or your foundations and roots. This is a nice positive energy moving through this house for you, just allowing you to maybe invest in a space that helps you feel mentally stimulated and able to have conversations that really light you up and inspire you. Then on the 7th of July, we do have Uranus moving into this 4th house for you, which could bring a bit of uncertainty, shifting and changing, and unexpected radical shifts to do with your home and family life. You could be unexpectedly upping and moving somewhere that you maybe didn't expect, or you could be feeling like things are just sort of shifting and changing and restructuring something to do with your home and family life. Now, this is a long-term transit and it will play out over the next 7-ish years, so just to be cautious. It will maybe feel a little bit upheaval kind of energy with it happening in your 4th house, but it is an energy that is a bit more subtle. You might not feel it straight away. It depends if you have any Gemini personal placements. You might feel this a little bit more personally, but with Venus in this house at the time of Uranus moving into this house, it is a bit more of a buffer, a positive buffer to allow this energy to come through in a bit more of a positive way. Then on the 11th of July, the full moon will be happening in your Capricorn 11th house and your Cancer 5th house. So something to do with your friendships, your hopes, dreams, and wishes, and also your romantic partnerships or any relationships with children or what lights you up in your life is coming to a combination point. Something is coming to an ending, something's coming to a close here for you. It might feel quite intense. It is on a bit of an easier axis to work with, but it is also supported by Jupiter, your traditional chart ruler. So whatever is happening or coming to a culmination here is for the greater good and is something that you do need to let go of in order to create space for something new to come in. Then on the 13th of July, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in your 2nd house, maybe alleviating some of that financial pressure that you've been experiencing over the past few months. Both Saturn and Neptune will regress back into your 1st house again, so you will start to understand this energy a little bit clearer and understand the messages that are coming through with this transit leading into next year, where both of these planets will be more permanently in the 2nd house for you. Then on the 18th of July, Mercury will be stationing retrograde in your Leo 6th house. So there could be conversations to do with your health, your work, your daily routines, or with your co-workers that could be coming to the surface that you need to revisit or just have more of an attentive sort of view on, that you need to sort of pay attention to. That will be a bit of a theme this month, especially as we lead into Leo season on the 23rd with the sun moving into your 6th house, and then on the 25th with the new moon happening in your 6th house. So this new moon is an interesting new moon. It isn't a new moon I would recommend manifesting in, especially with Mercury retrograde's heavy involvement as what you might be calling in during this time could look a little different when Mercury stations direct, especially with that heavy opposition to Pluto retrograde in your 12th house. It could just feel like quite an intense, spicy new moon that you're having all these revelations. Could feel quite emotional and quite intense. So just to be cautious of this energy. Then lastly, on the 31st of July, Chiron will be stationing retrograde in your second house of Aries, highlighting all the healing that you've been doing around your connection with your finances, around your values, around what if you feel brings you stability, around just reassessing this area in life. It could just be looking at how far you've got to go, or just the healing that you're still needing to do during this retrograde period. And then lastly, Venus will be moving into your Cancer 5th house at the end of the month. A really positive energy to close the month out for you, Pisces rising. This energy will form a trine in some way, shape, or form to your ascendant and a sextile to your descendant, especially with Venus conjoining Jupiter, Jupiter being your traditional chart ruler. There is this really harmonious energy that you're closing the month on. It might have started intense, but it's closing on a more positive way. So let's have a look at what the cards have in store for you, Pisces and Pisces rising. Joy, your inner child is here to play, and I think that is so aligned with that 5th house energy closing off the month for you, Pisces and Pisces rising. Lean into that Jupiter in your 5th house. Your chart ruler is currently in your 5th house, which is a positive house. It's an exaltation. We covered this last month, but I do feel like this month is going to bring you more joy. It's going to allow you to tap in and tune into your inner child, especially maybe during that full moon. Listen to that. Listen to what is coming up, especially leading into next month as well. But overall, lean into your joy. Your inner child is here to play this month, Pisces and Pisces rising.